that additional $11,000 is reflected for those of you who attended the grand opening of the police department. There was a pretty impressive ceremony where our police officers who were trained for about 4 weeks did a drill and ceremony performance with their weapons and flags, and which is a credit to now Lieutenant Dan Jones for putting that together along with Sergeant Mark Zimmerman and the officers that participated in that. They looked like they had been doing it for any number of years. And what's important about that is that it generates a degree of professional pride in an organization and a community. Officers like that will become available for opening of town meetings, for the Memorial Day parade, or even substituting for the military in some instances, for the death of a veteran and so on. They are extremely well disciplined and trained with the use of long rifles. It's been an ongoing training program. The use and deployment of a tactical deployment of these rifles, as was evidenced by that 14 Country Club Road incident of 2 years ago, where there were comments by the state police and the district attorney's office that it was one of the most professional operations that I've ever seen. And what they've done is they've taken the growth from that and turned it into a drill and ceremony team also. So $6,000 of that is set aside for equipping them with uniforms, and then $5,000 is set aside for providing Class A jackets for the rest of the, not for the whole department, but beginning a replacement program that'll take place over about 3 years for the rest of the department. Because right now they're in hand-me-down uniforms from the old Metropolitan District Commission Police that went out of business about 15 years ago. We inherited some of their uniforms, and about 1/3 of our department don't have uniforms. So we'll be working with the union on developing a replacement uniform, and then 1/3 of the department would receive the uniforms per year.
This is the dress uniforms you're talking
Yes.
about? Because that's been a bone of contention for collective bargaining for a while.
Yeah, that's been a long time, yeah. Yeah.
And that's included in this $11,000?
Yeah, it's $5,000 for the Class A program, and $6,000 for the drill and ceremony team.
And then as far as from an ongoing basis, that's the seed money, get everybody up to snuff, everybody dressed the same, because right now we have a hodgepodge, if I understand correctly.
That's right.
And then going forward, it would be under the annual clothing allowance thing, where they would be required to purchase.
That's right. And that will be subject to collective bargaining. Right now, the initial outlay would come through my budget, and then replacement that will be subject to collective bargaining in the future. And typically,
I would expect that it might be collective bargaining, but I would expect them to have to maintain.
A Class A uniform should last 7 or 8 years, anyways. They're not something that's worn every day. So they should have a long life expectancy.
Much like my own clothes, they change with the shape of the body, I suppose.
That's why we have the exercise one.
Right, yeah.
Greg, in your responsibility to present a balanced budget, the level services versus a balanced budget is a $40,000 difference. Could I identify what those items are? I see a big piece of it is in miscellaneous capital operations. I assume maybe
we again, we had a dilemma where we had to reduce $184,249 to balance out, and all of the departments were affected. However, in the case of the police, what we would suggest is the deferral of one of the police cruisers and equipment at a cost of $34,645. Secondly, to level fund office supplies at $1,000. Third, to level fund other charges, other charges and expenses at $1,000. Level fund travel, and to reduce with other supply requests by $700. Those numbers all taken together will come up with the difference between the two. And that's not unique to the police department. As I pointed out when we met shoehorn the budget within 3% available revenues, and we did our first cut, we found that we were about $185,000 short, which necessitated the second round of reduction.
In the, on the, police cruiser issue, the intent would be what, to, put
Bring
it
it
in the capital expenditures?
funded
for-
through
of,
free cash, available funds. We retained $180,000 in free cash for the April town meeting. It's possible that we would
So
use.
there's a possibility of putting it in April, but in a
Correct,
different category.
and have it funded by free cash.
If we look, we already talked about personnel. We're
By
talking
the way, the personnel budget estimate is based on the existing contract.
It is, yeah, we,
Right, so, in your administrative budget under, personnel pool, will be,
salary pool,
salary pool will have,
we have an amount of money that we've reserved for the police contract settlement. And once we reach a tentative, we'll go back and revisit that number. We know what it is. We know what our limitations are. And we're working on those.
and you understood that, I take it?
Yes. Another area where you'll see a slight increase, and I don't know if you want to go through every category, but it doesn't, a lot of this is level funded.
No, I think I'd prefer to leave it to questions from the board,
Yeah.
because, we have the information here, so.
Just,
If you wanna highlight.
yeah, just on our 5400 account, other supplies, we're in a dilemma. We're mandated by case law to have firearms training, and also state law. They have an annual firearms training to be certified through the Police Training Council, and also to diminish liabilities. And the courts have actually taken very aggressive stances in micromanaging the types of training that police should receive with firearms. You know, they'll get out and say, listen, shooting at a little circle target is no longer a valid means of training police officers, because it doesn't take into tactical implications and the level of stress when you're running. And so they've actually began to influence the types of training that is required by police. If we were to present a defense in a civil action against a shooting in North Reading, we've actually been involved in 3 of those in the last 2 years with our police officers. If you were to say, listen, we do our annual training and we're shooting at paper targets, I would suggest very strongly that the courts would find in favor of the plaintiff. So we have to be able to successfully defend our training program. And what's impacting that, and it caused a significant increase, it doubled the cost of our training insofar as supplies go, is the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's supply and demand. There's a very limited amount of ammunition that's available for civilian use, available in the country right now. And we have to put our orders in 2 years in advance to get sufficient ammunition to run our day-to-day operations and our training programs. And it's double the cost of munitions. So we used to spend $7,500 a year to buy ammunition to train us throughout the year, and for our service equipment, and that's doubled up to $15,000. So that's an area that you see a slight increase. Actually, double that one particular area, but the rest of the budget is pretty static. You know, it's level funded. You know, and we'll try to absorb whatever other costs occur for our day-to-day operations. You know, we'll just make do. But there are certain things that become difficult, that are way beyond our control and way beyond the typical cost of living impact of inflation.
Of course, we're in a new building, and Dave Hanlon mentioned that he's upped the cost for janitorial services and fuel and energy, I guess, costs for the building.
What I would like to do, Bob, is just to give some assurance to the folks that supported these endeavors, is that we started the program of observing the maintenance of the building. Each one of the sergeants, and it's overseen by Lieutenant Brennan, are responsible for a certain area of the building, and they go out on a weekly basis, and they look at the building to see if there's any wear and tear issues, any abuse issues going on, and they document this stuff. And then we address it at our staff meetings, who in turn will go back and address the whatever problems that are arising with their specific shifts. So we are aggressively trying to maintain what was given us. That we look at it as a precious gift that was given to us by the community. So we have some very aggressive maintenance programs that we can do in place.
I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I spent a number of hours in the old building in meetings, standing up in a corner because there was absolutely no room, and of course it was difficult to keep that facility clean and maintained because it was so crowded. And my expectations for the new building are that we don't have that problem. Any other questions?
Just in relation to details, town details. We had Mr. Hanlon in here a while ago, and he was stating that basically he doesn't have any control over that. It's all under your jurisdiction and your call as far as a public safety issue. I just observed 2 weeks ago, maybe in my neighborhood, you know where I live, we had a police detail one door down from my driveway. Dead-end street. It's like minimum 4 hours. That may have been a utility one, rather than a town DPW one, because I think they were replacing some poles or wires or something. But still, sometimes, on occasion, I see things like that, and so does the general public. It's like, is it really necessary?
That's a good question. First of all, the authority for details is granted by town bylaw to the chief of police to use his authority to make a determination in the interest of public safety if and when a detail is necessary for the opening of a road, a trench in a road, or some kind of a work that impedes traffic on the road. And that's supported by any number of case law giving the chief the authority to act in the interest of public safety. However, last year, sat down with the union and Dave, and worked with Dave on that. We come up with a protocol that interpreted in the bylaw and what was in the best interest of the public safety on how to control when and where a detail would be required. Certainly, a lot of it is discretionary, but what we determine, and we actually working with some of the frequent flyers like Reading Light, your Verizon and cable companies, that they notify us 24 hours in advance of where they're going to be working, and what's the type of work and the duration of the work. So if it's on a primary or a secondary road like Chestnut Street or Haverhill Street or Lowell Road or Main Street, in all likelihood, unless they're off the road significantly, you'll see some kind of a detail there for obvious reasons.
Those are no-brainers, right?
When it comes down to your smaller secondary roads in the community, that's a case-by-case assessment. It's supposed to be a case-by-case assessment, and I would hope that the vast majority of those instances do not require a detail. I'm sure a couple slip through the cracks now and then, but what they do is they go out there and they look at how long is a road going to be blocked for any significant period of time. And I think in the case of your neighborhood, Steve, that utility had been there the week before, and a cruiser was responding up there, and the car actually got trapped in there, and they had to spend some time to get that truck out of the way and so on and so forth. So that utility came back, and I believe it was the same thing. They were going to block the road. There was no notification by the utility that they were coming back there, so that they could have that opportunity to work with the utility on setting up how they would set up on that particular road. And so there was a determination made by the sergeant on duty that that road was going to be blocked for a significant period of time, and they felt that in the interest of public safety, that the residents should have a cop there to direct them around that area, in and around that area. And I can't be more specific than that, but I do have some